everyone, welcome back. I am Dr. Vernita White. I go by Dr. V, and I am a strategic transformational coach and consultant. I work with organizations like school districts and universities and helping them understand the importance of STEM leadership and how to take that to the next level. And then I also, which is this area that I love, I was gonna say my sweet spot, is working with high-level professional women and a few men, helping them to expand their brilliance and embrace their brilliance beyond their position, degrees, and titles, helping them to use their transferable skills and know that they are capable and deserving of a full life without only focusing on their professional life. And I do that through the areas of coaching, consulting, and believe it or not, through e-commerce. I am also a speaker and an author. And I probably won't keep giving you all those long intros, but you know, this is day 3. You may be new to my channel. You may be new to our VLOGmas series, so welcome. And then if you want to know anything else about what I do, what I stand for, and things that I talk about, please feel free to subscribe and go and just have a field day in my playlist and watch, binge watch on some of my videos so you can see how I got up to this point. So as a reminder, we are doing a giveaway. So the giveaway, you'll get like an interesting swag box of some sort from me. I am still building that. I'm super excited about being able to share some things with you all. And then in order to do that, you must, 1, subscribe to my channel, 2, like the video, and 3, make sure you comment with some sort of takeaway. And you must do that for all of the videos. So if you are new, I suggest you go back to day 1, watch day 2, and then come back here, or you can just start now by subscribing, liking, and leaving a comment. And the comment is really a takeaway. So it has to be a real comment, not just, hey, I'm here, what's up? But a takeaway that you got from anything that I said, or just something that you felt led to share, something that was on your heart. All right, so this is day 3 of VLOGmas, and it is entrepreneur style VLOGmas. So you're probably like, hey, you're not out and about again. We'll get to that, but this one is sort of different approach. And yeah, it's really about sharing some content and some great things over this season. So I'm excited about that. The title of this video is called What's on My Shelfie? So we know about selfies and things like that, but I want you to know about some of the books that I picked up. And I'm gonna be honest, I haven't read all of these books. I skimmed through them. My goal is to finish them before the end of this year. And if not, I'm not going to put my that kind of pressure on myself, but I am going to read these books. Just a little bit about me. I really don't like books. I don't like reading books. This is a skill that I've had to learn to embrace. And, people always side-eye me when I say that, but I was like, I'm a mathematics person, and, I like to do experiments. I like to do things like that, but to sit with the book and read it, it's not a fun thing for me. So I started looking at people like, what do you mean you don't like doing mathematics? What do you mean you don't like figuring out formulas and word problems and things like that? So see, it goes both ways. However, I didn't get this far in my academic life. I have a PhD. I didn't get that far by not reading books. So just because I didn't like them doesn't mean I never read books. I read a ton of books, and it may not have been a ton of books, but it's been a ton of pages, like literally pages and pages. Like a ton is what, 2,000 pounds, or 1,000 metric pounds, something like that. Measurement wasn't my strong area, but anyway. But I've read articles and magazines and journals and books and short stories, whatever it was, all throughout especially my doctoral program, and then even when I became a college professor, and then even now I'm still reading books as a coach and a speaker and an author myself. And this is my 2nd book that I've written, and I'll talk about that later on. But I've written articles myself. So one thing I remember, she was a professor. She wasn't my direct professor. No, one of my professors said this too. But it was like, if you have to keep questioning something, if you don't know the answer, that means you haven't read enough. And then when I would talk to some of my friends who were already authors, and I was like, well, I don't know what style I want to write. I don't even know where to start. And they're like, you have to read more books. So you'll, outside of academia, so you'll know the style of book you want to write, like how you want it set up, what is the tone that you want it to write. And I try to avoid English at all costs, English as in grammar and things like that, and structure, all that stuff that's in English language arts, not the English language. But it made sense. And although I've written articles and for professional organizations that have been peer reviewed and all of that, that too has a certain tone, very technical, very direct, very straightforward. But then when I wanted to write a different type of book, I had to go and immerse myself in, these different areas. So I'm starting to enjoy reading books. I don't think I'll be like, ooh, I want to curl up and snuggle up and read a good book on a Saturday night. But I do, get my pages in. And that's how I have to set up. Like I have to create a strategy for me to read the book, or a set time, because I'll look at something and say, oh gosh, no, never. I'm never going to read it. But I find books that align to me. I find books that I'm inspired by, their stories, the people who share their stories. I do like to know a little bit about the authors that I'm reading about. And it's like, So I'm going to share with some of these books where I came across the person, and then I was like, well, what else about them? And it made me go get their book, right? So the first one, in no particular order, like I literally just picked them up and just set them on the table, and I took some notes, and however they arranged themselves, that's how they showed up. So this one is by Shellye Archambeau. I think it's Archambeau, but you can see it, Shellye. Unapologetically ambitious. Take risks, break barriers, and create success on your own terms. So, and then even Sheryl Sandberg had made a comment about her, and the forward is by Ben Horowitz. So what I liked about this book, I came across her, she was doing some sort of interview or something like that, and I loved her story. It's like, well, who is this woman? And I'm just going to read you a short little clip, the little insert that got my attention of part of her story. It says, as a young African-American woman, Shellye faced more hurdles than most as she managed her personal and professional responsibilities while climbing the ranks at IBM and in her subsequent roles as CEO. And that's all I needed to hear to pick up this book, because my whole movement and journey about embracing brilliance is embracing every part of you, personally and professionally. And then hearing the stories or the struggles about some people, what they had to give up personally to have certain professional lives, or some people were like, no, I'm not giving up a certain part of my personal life so I can accomplish these things professionally. So that's her story. This is what she looks like, so I was happy to hear that. And then like I said, I haven't read it, but this came at a time for me when I was in this mastermind about speaking and owning your voice and things like that. And I had to give a speech, and I was struggling. I was like, I don't know what I want to talk about. I don't know, what is the that's going to get people. And I had written a couple speeches. I was like, no, those aren't it. Those aren't it. And then I was on a call with some people. Like one, she was like this high level technology executive working with leadership. And another one, this guy, he was a high level marketing director and things like that. He had his PhD, she had her master's degree, and we were just all talking. And the common thing that we discovered, with all our different pathways, was that we were essentially being punished or outcast for our ambition. I don't know about you, but can you relate to that? I'm hoping that you can, especially if you are a high level, high achieving person, climbing whatever ladder it is that you're climbing, that people shun you for being so ambitious. And I gave a speech, it's somewhere on my YouTube channel, or it may be on my LinkedIn channel, about people will call me a triple threat. And I used to think that was a good thing. And that's not a good thing, right? And I explained more about why that's not a good thing. And then I realized through me writing that speech and having to relive certain experiences, people were intimidated and afraid of my ambition. You know, when you feel like you're being blocked in certain areas, you know, I was in higher ed, the Ivory Tower, and the lady who happened to be my sorority sister, who was on the call working in the tech field, and she had been in the military and things like that. She realized that she was being punished for being ambitious. How dare she wants more. And the guy, he had a little bit of that, but guys and women experience it differently. So I said all that to say is when I looked at how people saw my ambition, not everyone, but a lot of times people who were the gatekeepers of certain things, how they viewed my ambition, and knowing that I wasn't the only one who felt like this, it was like divine intervention that I came across Shellye's book, Unapologetically Ambitious. So I won't read all of her chapters because there are 39 of them, but I'll read you the titles of the different parts of her book. So part 1 is early lessons. And some of that is in there: beware of the imposter syndrome, and set your goals, decide what's important to you. Part 2 says strategize for success. So she talks in there learning the ropes, or being strategic on all fronts, and fosters self-determination. Part 3, she talks about living the plan. And some of those chapters include no second thoughts, embrace your limits, forget about work-life balance, which that's going to be an interesting chapter, because even though I say live a full life, I want to be careful not to say a balanced life, because balance is a myth. Harmony is a must. So if we live a balanced life, it just wouldn't work. So I can't wait to read that. And then part 4 is called Swerve. So a few chapters are called Move Around, the blocks you can't remove, stay flexible, never say die. That'd be interesting. And then the last part is improving your odds. So in this, a few chapters, find your mentors. I actually read all of the chapters in this one. Find your mentors, because I believe that's very important. And as an entrepreneur, or even if you're a parallelpreneur, meaning that you still have your full-time investor, as well as you want to do something on the side, still need to find a mentor. I know I definitely did that. Mentors and coaches, very different. Build your network. Oh my gosh. Look, that was a lesson learned. Like, yeah, building a network is so important, whether it's professionally, personally, on social media, in an email list, wherever you want to, you know, vibrate higher in your influence and brilliance and your impact. Build that network. And I'll add community, but she didn't say that, but network. Find the current, take risk, and life planning. Oh my gosh, so much information. And then you learn from people. And here's the thing, mentors aren't always people that you pay. So like coaches, you know, I do believe in investing in coaches and paying for people's time, but you can get mentors for free by like reading books, watching YouTube channels, listening to podcasts. And then if you really want specific strategies, especially for a woman who became CEO of IBM, I mean, I don't know if she does any like, you know, coaching or consulting. I know she does a lot of speaking. You would pay for that, you know, in her mind. But look, glean all you can from reading stories like this. And yeah, so that's book 1 on my Shelfie. The second book is Mel Robbins, The High 5 Habit. Take control of your life with one simple habit. If you don't know Mel Robbins, she wrote the 5-second rule. And what I love about Mel Robbins is she's so real, so authentic, so raw. Like, you know, when I remember watching as she was launching this book and being turned down by Target because they said she wasn't a big enough author, and she had already had 1 million subscribers on Instagram. I think she had already become a New York Times bestselling author, the 5-second rule, but Target was like, we don't know you. And that lets you know that sometimes we think people are like, oh my gosh, they've made it. And then something happens in their life and they realize, oh, I didn't make it. And, you know, she was just so real about that experience. And she was literally on her kitchen floor, I believe, crying and saying how hurt she was. And she shared that with the world. And what I also like about Mel Robbins, so see, I connect with the people first before I read their books. What I liked about Mel Robbins is she was already a successful woman. I think she was a lawyer at the time. You know, she was doing her thing. I think she was doing some speaking. And then all of a sudden, you know, life happened, right? And she was like, gosh, I can't do this anymore. Like, she found her marriage not working. She was drinking too much. And she shared all of this. So it's not like I know her personally and I'm sharing her business. Like, she says all of this stuff. And she didn't like the way her life turned out. And she was like, look, you can't keep getting depressed and just being here in this bed, not getting up. And I connected with that because there's a part of my life where I would just be crashing on my grandmother's couch. I called myself bummed out. I was like, I had no job. I had this PhD, but I had no job. I had nowhere to live and a whole bunch of things like that. And I would literally just be on my grandmother's couch. And it was like, how long are you going to be here? You need to make a decision. So what Mel did, she was like, she fired herself up. She counted down backwards, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, blast off. And no matter what, she made herself get up, even if it was just to go brush her teeth, even if it was just to go take a shower that day, even if it was just to walk outside. And she said slowly but surely she began putting the pieces of her life back together. And then what I also love is that she uses science and research to back up a lot of the strategies and tips that she shared with people. And I'm like that. I mean, she doesn't have her PhD. She doesn't, everyone doesn't need one, but I'm a researcher. And I was like that before I earned this PhD. So I always like to know the why behind something, or does it really work? And that's the approach that she takes. So in the high 5 habit, she just takes it a little further from the 5-second rule. So her chapters, and I love reading chapters. That's part of when I was researching for my book, like, how did I want my book to be set up? So hers are 15, so I can read them all to you. It says, you deserve a high 5 life. Science says this works. I have a few questions. Why? Oh, this is the next chapter. The question is not this. This is another chapter. Why do I torture myself? Am I broken? Where's all the negative crap coming from? Why am I suddenly seeing hearts everywhere? Why is life so easy for them and not for me? Can you relate to just that title alone? I mean, pretty sure all of them, but that one stuck out to me. Why is life so easy for them and not for me? So have you felt that way? Have you looked around, and I know they say, oh, comparison is the thief of joy. And that is true, but there's still some part of us, or maybe it's just me, that looks like, okay, I set this goal for myself, or I put myself in this position. I know that's what I want to do. Not to do it the same way that they're doing it, but it's like, oh yeah, I can do that too. Then it's like, man, did they have to struggle like this? Or it seems like this happened for them overnight, and why not me? And then the next chapter, why is life, oh, I said that. Isn't it easier if I say nothing? Once upon a time, I don't even remember when, I probably need to look through some old journals or something. I went like almost an entire year or so without speaking. And I'm not saying I was a mute, but it was like if it had nothing to do with work or anything like that, just wouldn't talk. And I wonder if anyone would notice, right? They eventually did, but I felt that everything would be better if I just only said what I need to say. If I just didn't say much, if I didn't elaborate. You asked me a question, I gave you an answer. Or if somebody was wanting an opinion, I wouldn't offer it because you didn't ask me directly. In discussions, I think I was probably getting one of my degrees at the time. I wouldn't speak up. I'll write everything on a paper, but I wouldn't talk. So sometimes I felt that way. How about I start tomorrow? How many times have you put something off and you kept saying, oh, tomorrow, and next thing you know, it's a month, a year, 5 years later, right? But do you like me? I don't care what anybody says. We all want to be liked by somebody else, right? First, we have to like ourselves or love ourselves, but we want to be liked by others. How come I screw everything up? Can I actually handle this? Okay, you may not want to read this chapter, so that'll be interesting. And eventually it will all make sense. So this is what Mel looks like. I think it's great. She says it's time for you to believe in yourself again. And here's the thing. I used to think like this, and this is why I make sure I still read other books, but still sit with myself. Sometimes I'm like, it's the same message. Like I'm telling people when I work with clients or even consulting with universities and things like that, you have to believe in this. You have to believe in this. Like everyone is saying the same thing, but everyone's not saying it how you would say it. Just because Mel said that it's time for you to believe in yourself again doesn't mean I can't share with other people it's time for them to believe in themselves again. And as you see, that'll be a common theme with some of these other books that I'm going to show you. And our list isn't long. So this one is from, actually know her, Marsha Flemming. She is my friend. I met her. I love her. Her book, this is her second book, by the way. It says From Leadership to Legacy, 11 Strategies to Build Connection with Your Team and Create Massive Impact. And what I like about this, and I consider myself a leadership consultant. Information just, my order form. I consider myself in the leadership realm. My leadership is really with those understanding STEM leadership and diversity, equity, inclusion. However, I can take that skill set and go practically anywhere I want to. But I love this because it's a different perspective. My background is in education, traditional education. Her background is like in human resources and tourism and, all of things like that. And so, and really career development, like corporate career. And although we look at leadership the same, although we look at leadership, they're very different perspectives. So she looks at it from a standpoint of building legacy. And her first book was Ripples of Legacy, I believe, and things that she wanted to leave for her son and lessons that she wanted to leave for her son. But then she realized, that leadership is legacy for everyone. So her chapters, and this is a short read, so I love short reads because I can actually get through them. So what she talks about, again, I'll read her chapters because they're short. So it says, I love this. She has it set up in different parts. So the first part is vision. And then within the vision, it says your leadership identity. Why are you there in the first place? And what do you see for them? Not for you, but for them. The second part is self-awareness. So she says, save you from yourself. And do you see yourself? The next part is communication. What you say, when you say, how you say. And then the last part is connection, for you to invest, support, and challenge. So this is Marsha. She is from the Bahamas, and she built it's hospitality. I said tourism, but it's hospitality. She's taking that. She's taking that skill set and she's putting it into books and coaching and building courses. And this is what I help people do. Now, she's one of my good friends. So she does ask me questions about strategy every now and then. And I love that. I love supporting my friends, because then I go and be like, hey, how do I do this, right? So we do things like that. But she's an example of the type of women that I work with. She's already high level, career minded, high achieving professional and things like that. And she was looking for a way to transition and use her transferable skills. I didn't help her do that, but as she was going through that process, every now and then she would ask like, hey, what do you think about this? And then I would give her a different way to see things. I didn't know I was good at things like that until I started having conversations with women like her. And that's what started birthing this whole, thing about embracing your brilliance and coaching and really coaching on the transformational and the personal development side, and then how that shows up more powerfully in your career. So this would be a great book. Like I said, find her. She's Marsha Flemming, and I think it's at marshaflemmings.com. I always just go to her, what did she say? Yeah, marshaflemmings.com to get more information about this book, which is available on Amazon and any of her coaching and her programs, because she has a very unique perspective about leadership. All right, we're winding down. So I'm going to do these books because they're like a bundle, but I'll talk about them separately, but it's by the same person. So this book, I know her, but not like I know Marsha, right? But she started off as my e-commerce mentor. So my e-commerce business, I got into it because of her. And I heard this woman talk about high quality and wanted to live in a high level life. One of a coach that I had before was actually she was their coach. And I found out and I was like, well, who coached you? Right? So I didn't go to her for coaching, but I just went to her, just being nosy, just being honest. And then I started hearing some of her messages and I was like, oh, okay. But then I started seeing her live streams and she started talking about liquid collagen. And that's how I got into the e-commerce business. So I'm part of her e-commerce team and learning from her that way. And then I started listening more and more. And then actually, let me back up. I don't remember which book I got first. I think it was her devotional. Oh yeah, it was her devotional I got first, 100 Days of Believing Bigger, because at that time I was like, I want to increase, my spirituality. Like, yes, I read the Bible and things like that. And as we were in the pandemic, you weren't really going to church, and yes, I could stream, but I just wanted a little more guidance. Now, this did not replace Bible and it did not replace church. But the way my mind works, I was like, give me a structure or a framework to keep me on track. It's something that I can write down. And plus, I liked her approach. So I purchased this the first time and went through 100 days. Now, I will say, I went through this like I do school and everything else. Oh yeah, I did this check mark. I kind of read it and it was good. But what I've been learning, especially with anything that have to do with you, this is not, you don't treat personal growth and spiritual growth like you do, I want to say, content or business development or content knowledge, meaning like math, science, business, or anything like that. Because you can learn that if, once, it takes 1 or 2 times, but it never changes. So it is what it is once you learn it, right? With spirituality and with yourself, your personal growth and personal development, you are forever changing. So once you dig deep and you uncover some things and you apply the strategy for that thing, there's another thing that's coming. And you can't just say, oh, I feel good now, or I climbed out of that hole. You have to keep going. And what I learned is you have to keep going. So when you get knocked down, you don't get, because you will, you don't fall back into that hole. So I said this in a previous video somewhere, is that you invest and put the book down. You keep doing personal growth and personal development because you work on yourself and you go from 0 to 20, from 20 to 50, from 50 to 75, or whatever increments you want. But if you stop at 75 and you haven't done any more work, it's easy for you to slingshot back to 20 or even to 0. But if you keep doing the work, like you're at 75, but then you do work to get to 150, then you go to 300, like now you got this exponential, you're at 500. And don't ask me where I got the number. They mean nothing, but you can kind of see, give you a visual. When you're at level 500 and then life happens and knocks you back down, because like I said, it will, you won't go from 500 to 0. You won't even go from 500 to 100. You may go from 500 to 400 or 450, depending on what's in your toolkit of your personal growth strategies, right? So I had to learn, like, stop going through your growth and your strategy like it's a check mark, like it's a course, and actually let it be embodied and ingrained so you'll know like you know. Because if you're at 500, let's say you skip through and you're like, oh yeah, I'm awesome. I did all of my personal development work. I took the courses. I did my notes. I did the exercises, and you're at 500. And if you haven't embodied that, guess what? You're going back to 0. So I don't want to say I went back to 0, but I didn't give it what it was supposed to give, or however it goes. So the second time I went back around, I was like, okay, we're going to do this for real. And part of her community for this, learn how to really sit with it and have a different approach. And it really wasn't different for me. It was what I used to do, like back in the day, like old school Bible study. You know, I grew up in the church. My mom was a Sunday school superintendent and a Bible study teacher and a traveling evangelist, right? So I grew up in the church learning how to do things, and I grew up understanding Bible. I was in adult Bible class while I was in high school. So I went through a whole discipleship training, all of that while I was in high school, getting ready to go to college. So I knew how to study the word of the Bible, but I got away from that. So long story to say that I'm going through this again for these last 100 days at the time of this VLOGmas. And it's been very different in a good way because I'm taking my time. And that's what I share with clients that I work with or good friends of mine. If you want true transformation, you really have to do the work. So this book is split up, and I'm looking at the notes. There are 10 pillars, and there's no table of contents, so I had to write it down. The first pillar is trust. So it's 100 days, but they're broken up into 10 segments. So trust, purpose, identity, disruption, belief and faith, which is huge. Disruption is actually bigger, is huge. A lot of us don't like to look at disruption, and we don't, and it feels bad, but she has a very unique approach about disruption. Belief and faith, blessing blockers, stillness, blessing and obedience, significance, and courage. Courage is a big one. And I went backwards, but that book, I went backwards as far as my introduction to her writings or her books. I did 100 Days of Believing Bigger, not knowing that her book, her main book was Believing Bigger. Discover your path to life purpose. So again, Mel talked, Shellye was talking about unapologetically ambitious, taking risks, breaking barriers, and create your own success on your own terms. Marsha was talking about having leadership to legacy. Mel was talking about it's time to believe in yourself again. And Marshawn is talking about discover the path to your life purpose. All of those kind of sound like the same, right? But all of these women have a unique approach about their story, their message, and how they get you from A to Z, right? So for Marshawn, she started with this book, and then out of this book came the 100 Days of Believing Bigger. So this was a very good book. And she talks about the some strategies I use with my clients. And the reason why I like this, and again, this was started off as a mentor, and she's also a coach. And I don't think she calls herself a consultant, but she is consultant-like because she can tell people like strategies and what to do. And then as a coach, give them deeper insight and guide them along the way. But she calls herself a reinvention strategist. So she breaks this up into parts. So part 1 is called Awaken. Disruption is the invitation. So see, they kind of go together. And I like I said, I read the devotion before I read the book, and it made me fall in love with the devotion even more. Part 2 is Align, and it says the purpose map, the 5 strategies for divine reinvention. And this is where she talks about the comfort zone, the growth zone, and the glory zone. And this is public knowledge, of course, but I like using those categories when I work with my clients or potential clients, because it gives you a visual. Like everyone, I know for me, professional women, career women, we can understand those categories, right? So I love that she gave me language and some other women language who want to help other people. It doesn't always have to be women to like see where you are. Oh, my light just went out. See where you are, and then how to go from point A to point B sometimes, and then going forward. And then her last one is part 3, which is Activate, Step into More. So Marshawn Evans Daniels, she has both of these books. They are sold separately, but if I were you, I would get both of those books. And last but not least, as we wrap this up, ta-da! I said, this is my second book. And here I talk about, yes, I share part of my story. A lot of it went into when I was a doctoral student, and then what I need, how I overcame the foolishness of that process, and then becoming a college professor, and things that I had to do to optimize, I guess, or be the best that I can be as a professor. But I had to do some things in my personal life, and I went on a personal development journey for myself, and I had to relearn my voice, relearn the power that I had, and then I go through the strategies in here. I talk about, mine is also broken up into parts. So I talk about, excuse the light, I hope you can still see me. But I talk about resume realness, not so real. And that's the focus of my free life class, 10 ways to look good in life and on paper. It's because we take a lot of time to make sure we build up those resumes and CVs. But what if we transfer those skills and use those same skills to build up our personal lives, right? And then I talk about the first part is courage, and then it's broken up into big me and little me. And then I say courage over bravery, and there's no place like home. And then I do these grit check-ins. And grit, I didn't coin the term, but grit is going through something, overcoming something, but still being within integrity, and focusing on who you are as a person along the way. So not just accomplishing a task or overcoming an obstacle, but what characteristics are you developing along the way to keep your eyes focused on that goal when life hits you and knocks you down. So then part 2 was conscientiousness, a word we really don't use that often, but it's about being very detail oriented. And I named these chapters Checkmate Chair and Where's the Rule Book. Part 3 is endurance. So a PhD bigger than me. I realized I wasn't going to school just to be going to school to be called doctor. Once I let that go, then things became a lot, I was able to handle things. Things didn't become easier, but my perception and my approach to things became a lot easier. And then triple threat, negative. Yeah, that not true. Triple threat, I said this before, people saw me because I was Black, young, a young Black female in a STEM field. So being Black, being a female, and being knowing science, something about science, technology, and mathematics. Part 4 is resilience, and I talked about magenta and bum doc. So magenta, I talk about that. It was a phrase I learned from watching Golden Girls, and Blanche couldn't describe her feelings. So she was like, she's not yellow, because I forgot what yellow was, like sad, I think, or scared. It wasn't blue because she wasn't depressed, and she wasn't feeling green like envy. So she came up with magenta, and that's how I felt. And then bum doc, I share a little bit about that with you. I was literally Dr. Vernita Glenn White on a couch at my grandma's house, no job, none of that. And I felt like I was a bum. And then part 5 is excellence versus perfection. So no pearls before swine. And lace socks and disappointment. I won't get too much into that, but my mom used to have my dresses and my socks custom made for me when I was growing up. And I was always presented like this perfect little doll. And then I talk about an intersection, coming out of the valley, and then grit, embrace. So understanding all the things that I went through, embracing that, and understanding how powerful I truly was. And I don't just share my story, I actually go through strategies about what to do if you're feeling the way you're feeling, and how to become more empowered and powerful. All right, so I'll make sure I have those books down below for you if you want to purchase them or know more about them. And remember, we're in a giveaway, so let me know your takeaway from any of the books that I shared, or if you know some other books, share that with us, because we are a community. So that's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for listening to me and learning with me about these books. I would probably be able to read 2 of these by the end of I've read these, but between the other 3, I think I can get through 2 of them by the end of this year. So again, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Hit the notification bell if you so choose to. You can connect with me by going to drvernitafreegift.com to get the free live class from me. And I would love to have you in our large community, our Facebook community, which is Lopsided Achiever Recovery Group Experience, to where we do support each other in having a full life, not only just a professionally focused life. So yeah, thank you so much. I will see you next time. And remember to be well, be empowered, be bold, and be brilliant. Until next time, bye.